Right, okay. So now we're going to go back and we're going to look at sketching. We've done a bit of sketching, but to be honest, we've only really scraped the surface for what you can do and what you need to know about sketching. So what we'll do, if you want, you can save this. So save it as, okay, let's see, I'm gonna save as, okay, and I'm ignoring my own advice here, I've put a space in there, so that's bad. So I'm just gonna put cube 01, save, okay. And I'm gonna close that, which will take us back to this screen here. Okay. And now I'm going to create a new part. Okay. And then I'm going to start a new sketch, and it doesn't matter which plane. I'm going to select that one. I'm going to select that plane there, and this will bring us into our normal sketch area. Okay. So we've drawn a rectangle. We've seen the difference between a 2-point rectangle and one starting from the center. I'll just go over it again. A 2-point rectangle is just that, 2 points, one corner to another. The center point is to start in the center. You would draw symmetrically by starting there, obviously, but just to show you, that's center point, okay. Circle, we've gone over again. Circle, start at the center point. Now line is something you'll use most of all, probably, and just for normal line, and we use that by simply left clicking on our start position and then moving your mouse. You will see if you try and draw a horizontal line, it will kind of snap, and if you try and do it, you'll know it's hard to explain, but if you try with your mouse and follow along, you'll see when you get near to horizontal, it kind of snaps onto horizontal because it thinks that's what you're trying to do. Okay, and it will do the same with vertical. It will snap to that. If you don't want to trust that, then we do have the two boxes like we did when we did a rectangle. And by pressing the tab key, which again is usually under the 1 key on your keyboard, the number 1 on the left hand side, we can switch between the two boxes. I haven't pressed any button on my mouse here other than the initial click on our starting point, okay? I'm just moving the mouse, and the tab key will let you move between the two. Now with line, the one that says millimeters, or inches if you're using inches, but in this case millimeters, that is the length of our line, and you can see it changes as we draw a longer line, okay? The other one says degrees, so obviously you've probably guessed that's our angle. So if we wanted to draw a line, a horizontal line, we could just go to our angle, 0 being straight up, so that's 90 degrees. So we could type in 90 there and then tab across, and that's locked in now. Because we've inputted it, that's actually locked in. You won't be able to move off that, okay? So now it's asking for the length, so we could type in 25 there and press enter. Now that has done a line for us, and if I right click, and to finish sketching, you right click and OK. Not to finish sketching totally, but to finish whatever line or object you're drawing, okay? So we can see now what Inventor's done. It's actually put some things on our screen automatically. So all we did is draw a line, which is this here. But because we inputted 2 dimensions, it's given us those 2 dimensions. It's done a 90 degree angle from 0, 0 and a 25mm dimension. Like any other dimension, we can double click those and we could change that. Okay, we can change the angle. We can't change the angle. Okay, I'll change that back. Now this one here in brackets, this is what's called a driven dimension, and it won't let you change that. We'll get into why later. That's a bit advanced yet, but if it's got brackets, then it's getting its information from somewhere else. Okay. Now you might notice our line is solid, but this line is dashed. We didn't draw this line. This is being used as what they call a construction line. So in order to mark the angle of this line, we needed to say it was 90 degrees, but 90 degrees from something else. So it's put the way it's done it's put a construction line at 0, 0, okay? So a construction line, you can create your own, and we'll go over those later. For now, I just want you to remember that a construction line, it isn't part of your sketch. If you drew a rectangle and your construction line's in there, it wouldn't use that to extrude or anything like that. It's just there as a marker. Inventor won't see it as proper geometry. It's just that it's something you use basically to measure from. Okay, and again, bear with me, that it will make so much more sense when we start using them. Okay, now if I click on our line, you will see there is 2 marks here. Okay, so when we sketch, we use things called constraints, and constraints are up here. Okay, and if you notice, these symbols are also replicated up here, and if you hover over them, it will tell you what they are. Okay, so this is equal, and this one is a vertical constraint. Okay, now I do need to tell you, Inventor has this funny way sometimes of flipping your screen around, and that's why this marker here is important. This they call it a view cube. You can see we're currently looking down on the top, but we're not looking straight down. We're kind of looking from the right hand side. You see the word top is rotated. If you can use these 2 arrows here to turn your page around, and you can turn either way. So when you can read top and the text is the correct way around, then that is correct. Okay, and that will make a bit more sense for what I'm about to show you now, because this constraint here actually is a vertical constraint. So when you see it on this line, it means this line has been drawn vertical. And let me show you that. I'm going to click on line, and I'm just going to draw a random line. It's no size or angle in particular. I'm going to right click, okay. So this is just a line. If I click it, it hasn't got any of these markers. It hasn't got any constraints. It's not constrained to anything. It means I've not told it where I want it or how I want that geometry to be driven. Okay. But if I wanted that to be a vertical line, what I could do is click on this vertical constraint, and you see now it's automatically vertical and it's got the vertical constraint. If I click on this line here, it's got a different kind of constraint, but you can probably guess it's a horizontal constraint. And if we look up here, if we just hover over this without pressing it, it tells us what it is. It's a horizontal constraint. So again, if I drew a random line and I clicked on horizontal constraint and clicked on the line, there we go, it makes it horizontal. Now, when we created our line here, and I told you Inventor put some things on automatically, it didn't just put these 2 dimensions, the 25mm length and the 90 degrees. It created a construction line to measure this 90 degrees from, and it automatically constrained that to be horizontal. It created this line and constrained that to be vertical. That's why it wouldn't let us change this dimension, because it would be impossible to make this anything other than 90 degrees when we've got a vertical constraint here and a horizontal constraint there. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. What we could do, if we hover over this constraint and right click, it will let us delete this constraint. Don't click this delete, that will delete the line. We can delete just the constraint, okay? So if you want to get rid of a constraint, then you can delete it. I'm just going to put that back on for now. We also had another constraint on here. When I've deleted it, it's deleted off. I'm just gonna put it back on so I can show you. Okay. It was this equals constraint. What that means is these two lines are of equal length. Okay. So if you want to know what any of these are, if you forget, hover over them. It will tell you what they are. If you wait a second longer, it will give you a kind of description about how to use them. Okay, but basically these constraints here allow you to sketch and make it a bit easier to set things out.